The use of snares and glue traps has been banned in Wales from today in a move the Welsh Government have described as a historic day for animal welfare. Snares, which is focused on them, they're regularly used on game shoots and they're used to catch animals that might be viewed as a pest or a threat to birds. We're talking about foxes, rabbits and so on. The traps are usually a noose of wire or cord and are intended to catch the animals around the neck like a lasso. But they've faced criticism from animal rights campaigners who say snares are seriously injuring or killing animals that get caught up in them, including unintended targets such as badgers, hedgehogs and even dogs. Wales becomes the first nation in the UK to ban the snares. Rachel Evans from the Countryside Alliance, though, said the move risks hampering conservation efforts to protect rare ground nesting birds such as curlew. So I wonder if you're celebrating today's historic ban, or maybe you say, no, this will do more harm than good because we're going to have more foxes and rabbits roaming. Email vine@bbc.co.uk. Please include your phone number when you do. Send us a WhatsApp as well if you like on the long number, which is 08000 288 291. We talk now to Shahi Noor Alom, who's Public Affairs Officer for Wales at animal welfare charity The League Against Cruel Sports. She loves this ban. Matthew Goodall actually doesn't like it. You're Head of Education and Advisor for Wales and North West England at the Game and Wildlife Conservation Trust. Matthew, you go first. Do you have a problem with this?
Hi, Jeremy, and thanks for having me on.
Sure.
The term snare, first of all, is a lot of devices, as you've just mentioned there. What we're actually against is Welsh Government's kind of failure to recognise what is termed now a humane cable restraint, and is slightly different to a snare. So we are quite happily against the indiscriminate use of different snares, but what we've actually argued for is a licensed approach for using these humane cable restraints. And I call them a humane cable restraint because just to differentiate between those kind of snares of old, which internationally snares are still used as a killing device, and these humane cable restraints are designed as a restraining device, and they've gone through testing. They've gone through testing against the Agreement on International Humane Trapping Standards, which is the highest standards available internationally, as the name suggests, and also standards which the UK and Wales, as a part of the UK, is signed up for.
Understood. But the humane cable restraint you describe will also be banned under the new law, won't it?
Yeah, unfortunately, it will.
And why do you want... Okay, leaving aside the matter of this particular type of snare, why do you need to snare certain animals?
So there's a problem in the UK with many ground nesting bird species, and I heard you mention there the curlew, which is a red listed species. It's also in Wales, it's classed as a Section 7 species, which the ministers should be doing everything they can to conserve. And it's a species which is declined by about 81% in Wales and has a forecast extinction date as a breeding bird in Wales as 2033. And that's actually based on about an estimate of probably 1,200 pairs, whereas the reality might be as low as 400 pairs. So a bird in kind of real crisis point here. And we believe that the humane cable restraint is a vital tool in the toolbox to be able to conserve them and reduce that predation pressure, which is caused by fox predation.
Shahi Noor Alom, what about that? Have a humane cable snare?
Jeremy, well, thank you first of all for having me on board. First of all, I'd want to use this moment to really celebrate the fact that so many animals now in the world are going to be safe because the use of snares is now longer no more. In terms of the use of snares, it's evidence has found that it's inhumane, it's barbaric, it's cruel, it's indiscriminate in the way it targets non-target species. Welsh Government have acknowledged that there's alternative methods of predator control, but we're not here to talk about predator control. We're here to, celebrate the fact that animals and our beloved wildlife in the Welsh countryside are now no longer going to be victims of these cruel.
So you see all these animals as having the same value and the same status. So you don't, for example, think that if we have too many foxes, they will eat the eggs of the ground nesting birds that we heard about.
Look, Jeremy, there are alternative methods which I've mentioned for more humane ways. But I think this, just to bring it back, this is a historic moment for us in Wales. There are far more human ways to control predators.
Well, it might be a historic
barbaric.
moment for curlews in a bad way,
Yeah.
because they might find there are more predators out to kill them.
Look, just to kind of make a point that in 2021, there was a YouGov poll that showed that 78% of the Welsh public, they wanted the use of snares to be made illegal. All the members of the Senedd in the Welsh Parliament unanimously voted for this legislation. There's been many consultations. There's been much going on in terms of looking at the best way forward. And here in Wales, unanimously we've agreed that this is a thing that should no longer exist.
Well, there we are, Matthew. It seems that you, with respect, you lost the argument there.
Yeah, I just say on that one, it wasn't unanimous; it was majority. And the other caller mentioned the alternative methods, which I just wanted to cover very quickly. I'm assuming that he's referring to shooting, normally done at night using night vision or thermal. And unfortunately, it's not X-ray vision, and it doesn't allow you to see every fox. And we know from studies that the RSPB have done, where they killed something like about 500 foxes over 4 years in an experiment to see whether shooting foxes actually helped curlew, that they didn't have any. It didn't make any difference to the success of curlew. Where we found in studies where you do use these devices that actually you can increase your fledging success of curlew from about 15% of pairs fledging young without using predation management, of which these devices were part of, up to over 51%, and that's enough to save that population. So you can say that alternative methods are out there, and they're very useful, but they're not the whole picture. And unfortunately, there's no kind of proven evidence that you can do it without using this tool in the toolbox, or as part of the.
What do you do once you get? I appreciate when you get a fox or a rabbit in these humane snares, they don't die, they're not strangled. But what do you do with them after they're caught?
Right. So first of all, I'm just talking about humane cable restraints in relation to foxes. I'm not talking about them in relation to rabbits. And they're a live capture restraining device which holds the fox there, and then you would then obviously need to dispatch it humanely using a rifle or a shotgun, a firearm.
Well, Shaheen, or you don't like the idea of killing the fox at all?
The thing is, right. It's been found that there's no such thing as a human cable restraint. It causes suffering. It mutilates. It impacts animals, and it's an indiscriminate way of predator control, as you can say. So, as I mentioned, there are humane ways of doing that. Farmers can use humane ways of doing that, but I think that it's a historic day. Jeremy, and I just want to kind of point out as well that Scotland are also looking at this type of legislation.
I appreciate you want to say it's a historic day. You've now said it 3 or 4 times, so we put that in the bank. We've got it. We know it's a historic day, but not everyone agrees. And it might be that more curlew, I come back to this point, if you have more pests out, more curlews get killed.
Not everyone agrees, but as I mentioned to you, the overwhelming majority of the overwhelming majority of the Welsh public agree. The overwhelming majority, unanimously within the Senedd, the politicians have voted on this legislation. No one opposed this. So
hang on. We've got to get to the bottom of this. You said unanimously. Matthew, you said by a majority. Let's nail this thing. Which was it, Matthew?
It was a majority. There were a number of ministers that voted against it, and they were obviously in the minority. And yes, there has been public polls and so on, but I'm afraid it's a case of where the public might be misinformed. Or it's very obvious, isn't it? It's an extremely emotive topic. It's unpalatable to many people, but unfortunately, the harsh reality of this, in terms of conservation, is that some form of predator control is needed out there in the countryside to conserve these birds, or we will lose them. It it is not only curlew, it's also species like lapwing, like golden plover. It can be raptors such as hen harriers as well. There's scientific evidence to show that the use of these devices can help conserve these species. And when your other caller says that they are not humane, it has been scientifically proven that they do pass the agreement on the International Humane Trapping Standards. Now, that was done under license from the Home Office. It's all written up. It's all there in scientific papers. So to argue that they're not humane, and I am only referring to these humane cable restraints because they are the ones that have passed it, is incorrect.
Thank you very much to both of you. Really interesting discussion.